Hello, NGPA. This is Justin Ellickson Andrews, your Executive Director, hosting tonight's webinar on scholarship information. Excited to be talking to you. This presentation will be recorded and made available on NGPA's platforms for those who cannot join us live. We have got with us tonight Charlie Williams. Charlie is currently on the board of directors for the NGPA. Prior to joining the board, many of you know Charlie as our former chair of university and flight school committee. Charlie has been instrumental in his work on the flight school and university committee, leading expansion and our efforts to support our students. We're very thankful for his work there. And I've had the honor of working with him on the board these last few months, which have been equally as great. So I'm excited that Charlie was able to join us and take a moment out of his busy schedule this evening for us. So Charlie, if you want to come on off and join us, there you are.
Hi, everyone.
So what we're going to do tonight here is share a little bit of information from Charlie's perspective of what makes a good or a strong application from the perspective of a former recipient. And so to get us started here, first question for Charlie is, Charlie, talk to us about what you did to prepare in advance for your NGPA scholarship application.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I probably prepared for was my resume. And in aviation, there's a lot of times where they tell you if you're a flight student or a non-flight student to have two separate resumes. That's aviation and non-aviation. And so I made sure that I had both of those set because sometimes they like a little bit more of the other. I decided to go with my non kind of aviation side one and more of just a round broad view of me as a whole. And I also, a lot of schools, I was fortunate enough that at my school at University of North Dakota, we have people that can help us with our resumes and can have a really experienced looking over it, making sure that there's nothing that's misspelled, if they would do anything differently. And they actually had a lot of really good tips for that. So I made sure that I had someone look over it at the school. And then I also had a couple other family members and friends look over it as well. The more eyes that look over them, the better, in my opinion. And then another thing that I did too was I kind of a lot of times with scholarships they're looking for like a struggle that you have overcome or something that you would be qualifying to get a scholarship. And so I kind of had my kind of like top topic points for my specific struggle, which was me actually getting achieving my medical and using NGPA's resources, the mentorship program, all of that stuff to actually get my medical. But that was kind of my big struggle that I went through, and so I made sure that I had all my information and bullet points that I needed to then create the essay question that would be prompted to me.
Wow, so two resumes, huh?
Yeah, two resumes.
And
One's very colorful and one is very black and white.
yeah, that is a really good tip. And I think it's important too to point out that for those of us in the industry, I know this isn't a resume webinar, but a lot of us who fly as well as have corporate experience that unfortunately that usually does mean two resumes and maintaining those two. But it sounds like you also had some help with your university supporting you in those two.
Yep. They were very beneficial with looking over both of them. One of our class, actually, we had a capstone class that forced us to have an aviation style resume. So all of us had to do it at one point, but I already had mine done prior. And so that was very nice that I didn't have to do my capstone for it as well. But they have a lot of resources, and I know that a couple other schools off the top of my head have those resources as well. So it's a good thing to reach out to and see if that's available for the people applying.
Yeah, exactly. And for those who are listening in, if you're looking for a place to get started and you have an NGPA chapter on campus, A good resource would be your chapter president, as they are connected to the administration and the leadership team on campus. If you are not attending a school where there's an NGPA chapter, you can certainly reach out to our team, and we have plenty of resources available to be able to help you out in your needs there, as well as your mentor. I can't overemphasize enough, and I know on the former webinar, it was strongly suggested to have a mentor, and I'm going to echo that and reemphasize that we have a strong mentorship program at the NGPA that is maintained through a professional service. The organization invests a lot of resources into the program, so please take advantage of it. We have over 500 paired mentees in the program now, and so there is help and people who are ready to be your cheerleaders. Thank you, Charlie.
Yep.
So as we know, the NGPA's application is long, and there's a method behind the madness for that. But can you talk to us about like what roadblocks you faced when you were initially gathering all that information we require for the scholarship?
Yeah, so for the scholarship, it is a lengthy scholarship to get all the information, but we really just want to know as much as we can about uh, the individuals to make sure that they do qualify for the scholarship, and we're giving it to the best person suited for it. And so I did come into a couple roadblocks. One of the big ones is it is a lot of information at once. And so making sure that you take it in chunks, you do a couple pages a day or till you kind of feel like you're just a little bit done, or you actually physically hit a roadblock if you can't remember which job came first when you give all your job information, or how much you were paid, or some of that stuff too, where you might need to wait and get that information. And so yeah, just making sure that you take it in chunks and not try to just rush it and do it all at once at the end, because that's just you're not going to give the best ability possible with the questions and the information that you're giving if you do it very in a rushed way.
Yep, exactly. And as we know, the application submission curve kind of looks like one of these. We see most of our applications being submitted in the last 5 days of the application window. And so like Charlie mentioned, don't wait until the last minute. Prepare now. We have we just crossed over the halfway mark. So you've got about 2 weeks left at the time of this webinar to get your information in and submitted. Don't wait until the last minute. There's a lot of things that could go wrong outside of our control. And we want to make sure that everybody who has worked hard to get that information has the opportunity to get that into this system. So please don't wait until the last minute, get that in ASAP. Thank you for that. What do you think, now that you have been a previous scholarship recipient, if you could think back to your application and your essay questions, what do you think made you stand out amongst the crowd?
Yeah. So I think a big thing that made me stand out, a couple of different things, is I initially found NGPA my freshman year at University of North Dakota, newly out to the gay world, and kind of was a little lost and stumbled across it. And I was like, it's pilots and it's people that are like me, and found my little family in North Dakota in a sense, and realized how important it was to me. And so I decided to then take different roles within that chapter there. So I became the vice president my sophomore year, and my junior year I became president. And then following that, I became the University and Flight School's chair, and now I'm on the board. And so taking those positions within NGPA, I think stood me kind of made me stand out a little bit more than people that didn't. The positions themselves, even at the local levels within the chapters, are very. I've learned a lot through it. A lot of good things, a lot of like trial and error things as well. But it was definitely something that I learned a lot of valuable information for just me as a person. And so it's really fun to do. It shows that you are dedicated to the organization and someone that we would probably want to give a scholarship to. Another thing too is I mentioned about like earlier about me having struggling with my medical issue when I was initially getting started in aviation, and with the mentorship program with AMAS at the time, I could use their resources and was making sure that I was going the right direction and making sure that I could actually get my medical. And so I really owe getting my medical and getting my now instrument rating to NGPA, because I don't know if I would have been able to get my medical without these connections. So I mentioned that they are the reason basically that I am where I am today in a sense. And that's the other reason why I stepped up in these positions as well, is because I really do care about NGPA and about what they have done for me.
What was your initial like? What was the initial reasoning that made you decide to get involved with volunteering with the NGPA?
The initial volunteering is I actually had a really good president that was there for my freshman year and then ran again the second year. And she was just a blast. And she always had these really cool ideas about different fundraising and trying to get the groups together and have like making sure like she was the mom of the group and made sure that like everyone was taken care of, saying hi to everyone and making sure no one felt left out or all that stuff too. And I could tell that there were some people that would come to our meetings that would be a little curious about joining or curious to come out as well. They would just kind of sit very quietly, and she would always go over and make sure that they're doing okay. If they need anything, to let her know. And I thought that was very cool, and I wanted to kind of follow in her footsteps and do the same thing since she was kind of departing the school. And so I kind of took the same initiative, and that was my favorite thing to do, especially to the people that would come to the meetings that weren't really sure about joining or about actually coming out as well. And so I kind of followed in that footsteps, and it kind of snowballed from there. And I've just enjoyed the process and learning how to do things and getting sponsors and meeting new people. And it also led me to be president of the other two LGBTQ plus groups on campus through my 4-year program at UND as well. And so I could kind of cross pollinate groups a little bit as well and have co events, and I just enjoyed it.
It was been so cool to see the growth of our leaders on campus as well. As you know, we traveled a little bit over the last couple of semesters to different campuses, and it's just been it was just really cool to see the number of students involved in the chapter on campus, the diversity of students in chapters as well, from a range of majors and future goals in the industry and allies. So yeah, it has been such an honor to see the growth of the university and flight school chapters. And then we have a lot of that thanks to you to growing that. So thank you for stepping up, and I hope to learn who that president was who inspired you to get you into volunteering with the NGPA. We owe her a bit of thanks, I think.
Yeah, it was Jacqueline Emery, and she's now at Horizon Airlines in Seattle, and she comes to most of the events too, so she'll be around.
All right, Jacqueline, this one's for you. Thank you. Thanks, girl. Appreciate you. All right. And so if you could change one thing about your application now that you know, obviously it worked, but we always second guess ourselves and we always think maybe I could have elaborated a little bit more or whatnot. Do you have any suggestions or any instances where you have something on your application that you maybe wish you would have changed or done a little bit differently?
One thing that I can think of off the top of my head is initially I didn't really have for the essay question specifically, I didn't really have many people besides just me and my sister actually look over my essay. And to having someone else or a couple other people look over it and kind of gather their information about going a little bit more in depth, I was kind of lacking, I think, because I applied my first year and then didn't get it, and then my second year I did. And my first year, I could tell that I didn't I didn't go into detail as much as I probably should have. And sometimes that can be a little difficult as well. You don't want to also, it's uncomfortable sometimes if you're bragging about yourself, or also if you're struggling, if you're talking about a struggle that you had in depth. It can be a little triggering for some people. And sometimes, to me, I think initially it felt unneeded. But sometimes you want to have that personal touch. And so that's kind of where the other people looking over my essays kind of came into play and wanted to know a little bit more information that wasn't really there when they read it. Another thing I just would recommend for when you're doing that application, if this isn't your first year, or if you're thinking about applying for years, or you would qualify for applying for years down the road, is making sure that you have like a PDF. I've saved the PDF document of the 60-page document for the Smarter Select thing, so I could go back and kind of copy and paste like when I worked, the dates that I worked, my starting pay, my end pay, how many hours it took me to solo, all that stuff that they needed, instead of going back and trying to figure that out a little bit later. And I actually ended up taking like a recording of me scrolling down the screen so that I could look back at it the following year, and it took a lot less time than the previous year in getting all that information.
Yeah, I bet. And I think another a key point that you hit on in your answer was that you had help with someone looking over your essays.
Yes, definitely have someone look over your essays. Even if you're the best writer, I know that I am far from the best writer, and so I always have people look over my essays. But even if you do think you are the best writer, still have someone else look at it, because someone, especially someone that doesn't know necessarily much about you, is a big thing too. I tried to go instead of family members, I tried to maybe find someone that was like someone kind of that I don't really know well, that could try to kind of gather me as a whole in a sense, or make sure that I'm a well-rounded person with reading the essays, and that I wasn't missing any gaps.
Yeah, yeah. So important, and especially because if you're anything like me, you get on a roll. You read it, and you read what you thought you typed, and so that and or that the or that hour that you thought was there is not. So yeah, having somebody else proofread and be part of the process. Is incredible and really great advice. Again, mentorship is so important. Please take advantage of the mentorship program that we offer here. It's available, and we've got many that are willing to help. But awesome. Well, thank you for that. And for those who are listening and thinking that they may have missed an essay on their application, new for this year, we have a two-part process. The first part is the data gathering, which is what you are working on now. And then the second part will be essays to those who are passed on to our semifinalist rounds. So don't think that you have missed anything yet. More to come on that. But thank you, Charlie. And so impact-wise, now here you are, an NGPA scholarship recipient. What impact has that had on where you are with your training and your career?
Yeah. So I just recently, about a month ago, got my instrument rating. And so I have so far paid for all of my training out of pocket, with savings, with work, with scholarships. And so it really, because I have my debt with college, and that's one thing, and I really wanted to try to get as much out of debt as I could, or not have any debt for flight training as possible. And so me getting the scholarship made me not take out another loan for my instrument rating, and it got me through most of my instrument rating, which I'm very fortunate and grateful for. And I wanted to I wanted to apply for as much as I possibly could for different scholarships, because flight training, as we know, is very expensive.
Mhm.
And I wanted to try to keep it as minimal as possible for that.
Yep, that it is. That it is. Yes. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for the information here, and I know that this has been helpful to more than a handful of members. So I appreciate your time this evening again. And before we move on to explain this slide, I did want to just address anybody who may be joining us live tonight. If you do have questions, Luke will have the question and answer open on Zoom here. So feel free to submit your questions. We'll answer them live. So go ahead and get those in now if you do have any. But to wrap us up here on what makes a competitive profile, first and foremost, a complete profile. So as Charlie mentioned, he prepared in advance and had mentors and resources to help him. Please make sure that when you are going through the effort of submitting an NGPA scholarship application, which we know is lengthy, that you do so in as best of your ability to make sure the information is accurate and fully complete. No discrepancies in your information, no vagueness. It may be tempting to give generalities, but that's not what we're looking for. And the program here is extremely competitive. We're expecting numbers similar to last year. We received well over 400 applications last year for the 2023 cycle for a total of just over 40 scholarships. So it's incredibly competitive. And we can't overemphasize enough that your application must be complete and detailed as possible. Accuracy also is very important. When we ask for how many hours you have, we want how many hours are in your logbook, not a general, I've got about 500 hours. We want to know how many you actually have. And there's a method to the madness because sometimes it does come down to the finite details when making our finalist selections. So making sure your information is accurate is very important. Ultimately, the method behind the madness here, what we're looking for is for you to demonstrate three things. The first, your ability to succeed. That's why we ask for detailed information about your education history. We're looking for patterns of success, and we're looking for patterns of overcoming obstacles and demonstrating your future ability to succeed. Second, we're looking for a financial need. We want the whole picture. We know that there are many ways that those may be receiving financial assistance, whether it's through grants or other scholarships, funding through personal backgrounds, and maybe governments. And we want to know that full picture. So please make sure that you're giving us that information because we do want to make sure that there's a financial need. And lastly, and most obvious, is that you have contributed to the LGBTQ plus community. And so what that means is similar to what Charlie shared on how he got involved in the NGPA. We want to know your story. We want to know how you got involved with the NGPA. We want to know what you're doing in the community. We want to know what leadership qualities you have that set you out from the group. Again, very competitive program that we've got here. And so make sure that you're giving yourself enough credit. And if you think that you might want to leave things off of your application, please make sure that you check with a mentor or check with us first, because we would hate for that to be accidentally omitted, and it could be one of the things that sets you apart. So ability to succeed, financial need, and contributing back to our community, three most important things here. And with that, I don't see any Q&A in the chat here. That's okay. We weren't expecting live Q&A anyway. So what we want to provide here is our email address. So we're always available online, scholarships@ngpa.org. The operations team will respond back and provide you with the resources that you need as quickly as we can. I also encourage you to take a look at our website and our FAQ page. A lot of emails that we receive are answered on the FAQ page. So a way to get your response back to you a lot faster would be to check out our FAQs online. But in any instance, once again, thank you so much, Charlie, for joining me this evening. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to you all and seeing your many applications come through the process and seeing as many as you walk across the stage this February in Palm Springs. So with that, I'm going to go ahead here and wrap up and say thank you so much again. Have a great evening. Looking forward to seeing many of you again in Oshkosh this coming summer. If not, we will definitely see you at an event hopefully soon. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great evening.